Hey, what is up, everybody? Happy Victory Monday. How good does it feel to watch a complete game like the Detroit Lions played yesterday? Hey, I've been gone for a while. I had all four of these wisdom teeth just yanked out of here. So if I'm not bringing the usual level of excitement, hey, maybe I'll be going for the vibe of my buddy Chris that he does on here. Just kind of that laid back, like, let's just talk Lions football. That's kind of his thing. My thing is more on the side of like, hey, let's talk about this. This is what happened. Like, I get really excited. I don't have a vibe. So sorry if I'm a little chipmunky. And hey, we're playing at like 50% right now. But watching that game, I was 100% invested, 100% excited. So a couple things that I just want to talk about coming off of that game. You see the title that the Detroit Lions keep getting more good news after the victory. I have two things that I really want to highlight. One of them is a little tongue-in-cheek, but the other one is very, very serious on this. And, of course, we're going to talk about Dan Campbell with his play-calling takeover. None of us knew it was coming. Did you know it was coming? I didn't know it was coming. I will say I have talked on this channel, and I've talked even more boldly amongst circles around friends and things like that, that I think that the offense, I was feeling like I was eating crow a little bit because all off season I was like, John Morton will be fine. This is Dan Campbell's offense. John Morton will be fine. This is Dan Campbell's offense. And my whole thought was that John Morton would do what Ben Johnson did because he was following the play that Dan Campbell was installing. Right? That was my thought process all summer. And then after the first month or so of the season, one rough game and then 3 games of just laying it to people, I thought to myself, all right, can we just be done? John Morton's a good offensive play caller. And then the last month happened. Over the 3 games before this, I think we're only averaging 21 points a game. The offense just did not look to be able to open it up. We couldn't get anything going in the run game. We couldn't get anything, honestly, even going in the passing game. There weren't layered passing attacks. We weren't utilizing play action because we weren't running the ball effectively. It just overall was really, really ugly. And then, all of a sudden, against the Commanders, you see Dan Campbell over there. He's got his glasses on. He's looking all sophisticated. He's doing his best Andy Reid impersonation over on the sideline. His hat, his glasses. He's got his cardboard. He's looking like all of a sudden Dan Campbell goes from being this jock meathead coach, players coach, rah, yeah, let's go, to, oh my goodness, is he the smartest guy in the building? Like, he even looks like he's a really smart guy. And he can put that on. I think the most telling moment in this whole game actually happened as the game was coming to a close. When Jared Goff walked over to Dan Campbell, kind of put his arm around him and said, hey, good job. And then Dan Campbell said something back, and Jared Goff looks at him again. He goes, no, good job. And it just, to me, was a moment of Jared Goff being like, me and you, dude, let's stick together. For the rest of my career, you're calling the plays. I'm here. Let's make this happen because there is no better tandem than the two of them. Now, let's talk about this for a second and what this means and why the Lions are continuing to get more good news. Then I'm going to get into my second thing, which is a little tongue-in-cheek, but I think it's kind of funny. Dan Campbell calling that game. I understand the Washington defense has been a sieve lately. Like, I understand it's been a leaky faucet. I understand it has not been going well. I really do. With that being said, do you remember a more consistent and complete game from the Detroit Lions offensively in your time or in the 5 years that Dan Campbell has been a head coach? We didn't punt. I want to be clear on that. We scored on every possession until the final possession, and we didn't score on the final possession because we just kept taking a knee. These were sustained drives. There were chunk plays, but there were non-chunk plays. It was everything. There were deeper passes. There were intermediate passes. There were short passes. The running game was effective. Everything was moving, and they were setting everything up. This is crazy. Let's go ahead and let's look. Let's see what Dan Campbell said. I think this is going to speak to my point. When asked why he started calling plays, he just said, let's try something a little different. Look, I know what I want to do. I know how I want to do it. Now, that being said, this is a collaborative effort now. I was taking input from John Morton the whole time and other coaches. and other coaches. But I just wanted to change things up a little bit. Let's just see if maybe a different play caller can maybe give us a little rhythm. That's all. And honestly, it's nothing more than that. A little rhythm? Are you kidding me right now? Like, are you kidding me right now? What I like about this is when he says, I know who, and he talked about this at another time, I know what our guys are capable of. I know what I want to do. We heard rumors at the end of the Ben Johnson era when he ended up going to the Bears that maybe he was on his way out anyway. Look, Ben Johnson, the Bears are 6-3. Okay, and it's not necessarily because their offense is humming. All right, if you watch the game against the Giants, that offense is not humming. It's on and off, on and off. It's kind of herky-jerky, kind of like our offense was under John Morton. But Dan Campbell, I will say this over and over and over again. What if what we got in Dan Campbell ends up being one of the best play callers in the NFL? What if what we have in Dan Campbell, ends up being we never have to worry about losing an offensive coordinator because our offensive coordinator is our head coach? What if what we have in Dan Campbell is what the Chiefs have in Andy Reid? What if what we have in Dan Campbell is what the Rams have in Sean McVay? If what the 49ers have in Shanahan? If what the Broncos have, I was going to go if what the Broncos have in Sean Payton. Like, what if we never have to worry about the offensive side of the ball having an elite play caller? That is how you have sustained success in the NFL for a decade or more. That is what the Lions have. That is one of the really good news that came out of this game, is that the future is now set. Dan Campbell, we've always talked about it. I've said it for 4.5 years, however long he's been coaching. This is his 5th year. Dan Campbell's our offensive coordinator. Okay? I don't care if Ben Johnson was there calling the plays. Like, Dan Campbell's the man that's turning the ship. That's it. Like, and if Ben Johnson was on the wheel, Dan Campbell was telling him where to turn. And now it's being proven more. Here's the second thing that I have, and it took me forever to get to it. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you, okay? Because now we finally wore the silver pants. And we won while wearing the silver pants. I was getting so sick of white on white, blue on blue, black on black. The black on black is pretty tight. But when we switched to these uniforms, there were 2 color combos that I was absolutely looking the most forward to. Number 1 was the Honolulu blue top with the silver pants bottoms. Okay? That is what we wore every home game growing up for me in my lifetime. And the second combo was the one we wore against the Commanders, which is the white road uniforms with the silver bottoms. But we lost a couple games with the silver bottoms, and I think it just became a thing of like, it became like a bad luck thing. Like, I really, like, if you had a secret microphone in the locker room, I guarantee it would be this whole thing about like, hey, we're losing with those, so we got to keep wearing the one color only because that's how we win. So happy to see this. So happy to see this. So anyways, with all of that being said, just know the Detroit Lions are back. They're 6-3, and they are ready to make some noise. I can't wait to make videos talking about this week. It just feels so nice after a win like this, doesn't it? They keep getting good news. We have found our offensive coordinator. He just happens to be our head coach. That is the one time where there is a coaching position in any level of football that you don't have to worry about him leaving. It is the head coach of a professional football team. If you have a good combination, head coach, GM, owner, they don't leave. John Harbaugh has not left. Shanahan has not left, right? There are other coaches that when you have a good coach, Andy Reid and the Chiefs, right? Like, they just keep it going. All right, Tomlin with the Steelers. What if the Lions, Belichick did it with the Patriots for a long time. What if the Lions are that next team that has a 20-year coach because of success? That's what I'm looking at. All right, Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you on the next one.